Hello, Derived Energy here with another video. Today I'll be making a response video to Gratex's video entitled You Choose to Exist, which I believe he made about a month ago. Okay, so let's kick it off.
Well, I've been watching this so-called debate about anti-natalism for some time. I myself have been participating in it as well.
Is that what you call it? I mean, I made a response video to one of your videos and you rubbished my video, but at the same time you acknowledged that you hadn't actually watched the video I sent you in its entirety. So if this is your idea of participation, it's pretty lame. And also I'd like to point out that the levity that you're adopting in this video with this ridiculous persona that you're presenting here is completely at odds and inappropriate to the serious nature of these philosophical discussions. You know, there are people who are suffering and you're just completely making light of it all. And also, you don't have the right to pour so much scorn onto the anti-natalist debate because you haven't addressed or attacked the philosophy behind it. And you certainly don't do so in this video here, as we are about to see.
But when I find it funny to think about those people who argue that life shouldn't exist, doing so via the medium of life itself.
Well, gee, I mean, would you find it more palatable intellectually if people framed anti-natalist arguments if they, from a perspective of them not coming into existence? I mean, of course, that's theoretically and practically impossible. Or perhaps you would find anti-natalism easier to take seriously if people made anti-natalist arguments after they died, you know? Well, I'm sorry, these things are theoretically and practically impossible. The only way anti-natalist arguments can be articulated are through somebody who's currently existing. Or I suppose somebody could leave their memoirs behind, expressing their views. So let's just assume, if it makes you feel better, that I'm dead and I died, you know, after I made this video. So this voice is coming from the grave. There, you can take these arguments seriously now.
You see, they argue that life shouldn't exist whilst they are themselves alive. They argue that people are addicted to life and hence can't make rational judgments. But they themselves are addicted to life, so can't make rational judgments, including the judgment that they make that people can't make rational judgments. It's so confusing to me.
Well, it doesn't take much to confuse you then, does it, Gratex? Okay, listen. I've said people generally have a liability, a propensity to regard the life, death, existence, non-existence kind of arguments and existential questions in an irrational way. But that doesn't mean by default that automatically people are, by the very definition of them being human, incapable of thinking rationally and objectively about the human condition and the philosophy behind antinatalism.
I can't stop thinking about the hypocrisy of people who cannot practice what they preach.
Okay, well, let's just address what antinatalism actually means. It means that you think that it's unethical to bring children into the world. Now, from a personal perspective, I don't have any children, and I certainly never intend on having any children. So from that limited perspective, then I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not being hypocritical here. I'm not posting these videos and then running off and attempting to sire as many children as I can. But let's say even if I did in fact have children myself, it wouldn't make me a hypocrite if I were promoting anti-natalist arguments, because as long as I'm regretting the fact that I had children, then, you know, I would be able to recognise that I made a mistake, you know, from a philosophical morality angle, you know, and that wouldn't be hypocritical. And yeah, so this hypocrisy thing just really doesn't work very well. You should have thought that through more.
I can't stop thinking about that. They don't want to live, and they don't think life is worthwhile or has any meaning.
It's not a matter of whether an antinatalist wants to live or doesn't want to live. The arguments are about whether it's ethical to bring children into the world, you know, and that's the issue. It's not like a self-centered, selfish sort of argument whereby you're framing the argument purely within your own personal subjective angle.
But they're alive.
Fancy that, somebody articulating an opinion who actually happens to be alive.
They create a meaning called ending all life. Just like all...
Well, that would be the ideal scenario, but if you can reduce the amount of people in the world, then that's a step in the right direction. It's not an all or nothing phenomenon. It's not like whether a neuron fires or not. You really seem to see it that way, that it's antinatalism either spectacularly succeeds or it fails. But this is not the case. You know, if I can save someone who would have been born and then they suffered. Now, if my arguments bring about a state of affairs whereby that person doesn't come into existence, then that's one entire human being's future predicament that's been circumnavigated. So that's a good, positive thing.
Humans create their own meaning in life. They create one that means that all life must be ended, including all of those meanings. Yes, I think they're quite stupid too. I think...
That is just such a lame ad hominem attack. Oh, I think they're stupid too. I mean, seriously, I mean, okay, where is the evidence that antinatalists are, on average, you know, less intelligent than pronatalists? You know, are you going to actually, you know, demonstrate how there's a valid argument that can be made there? You're not. I mean, thanks for calling me stupid.
They're lazy, I think.
Oh, they're lazy, stupid. I mean, really, this is like so 9th grade.
They don't want to solve any real problems. They just want to...
They don't want to solve any real problems. I mean, where are you plucking these great insights from? Really? They're just ad hominem attacks.
And they're the right people, you know.
It's not whether someone's the right person or the wrong person. It's whether, you know, they're correct and their appraisal of what is happening in the world is more accurate than another person's.
They're the fire wardens ensuring everybody gets out of the building called life. They're the last ones out the building. That's an excuse for not killing themselves anyway. That's an excuse.
Well, I don't really think you need an excuse to not kill yourself. I mean, we're programmed to abhor, you know, suicide. You know, evolution has programmed us to have, you know, an intellect that militates against suicide. And as I've said before, if you commit suicide, then you're creating, you know, more harm and suffering for other people who will be affected by your demise.
For not showing. That's it.
And also, an antinatalist could have a, you know, a subjectively very pleasant pleasant life, you know, and enjoy being alive. But that doesn't mean they cannot objectively look at the situation, take a step back and see that from a deontological moral perspective and from a consequentialist perspective, procreation is misguided.
Excuse for their hypocrisy, I guess.
Yeah, let's throw the word hypocrisy into the mix again. Hypocrites, lazy, stupid, don't want to solve any real problems. I mean, I think these ad hominem childish attacks really reflect the dearth of arguments that you've actually got against the arguments that I've put forward and other antinatalists have put forward.
If they'd kill themselves, then life will still go on. But surely, Surely they would need to destroy the entire universe in order to ensure life doesn't re-evolve.
It's the extent to which you can bring about a better world. I mean, if you can reduce the amount of people that exist, then there's going to be less suffering, and that's something to work towards, even if it's not a complete success. It's better than nobody challenging, the dogmatic belief that procreation isn't morally misguided.
So surely their jihad against existence would mean that they would have to spread across the entire universe or universes in order to safely evacuate the universe of life.
Well, that raises just so many questions. I mean, we don't even know for a fact that we're not alone in the universe. I mean, we could be going on a wild goose chase. We may not develop the kind of technological capabilities that we would need to achieve such a goal. There's no guarantee that the human race would make reducing or alleviating suffering or eliminating suffering in the universe a priority. I mean, it could be that if we attempted to do such a thing, we could be creating a worse situation than we would be if we just simply did nothing. If you look at the history of mankind, we just exploit everything we encounter. I mean, if we encountered alien life forms, we're just as likely to try to exploit them than we are to actually help them. Will the human race actually even last long enough to develop the kind of technology of exploring the universe beyond our solar system or the next solar system? I mean, you'd have to travel at the speed of light to make inroads into exploring the universe. And there's a lot of arguments about how mankind will never develop the kind of technology that you would need to work your way around the universe. So it's kind of like an ad hoc, if you like, an ad hoc justification for continuing the human race. We should continue the human race because we're the only beings capable of eliminating suffering in the universe. But I think this is an insincere and ungenuine justification for having children, when the primary reason for having children is because of people's own selfish, self-serving needs to be a parent and to have children. So I find that a disingenuous argument.
Yes, if they're being consistent, of course, but they're not. They're not consistent. Not logically consistent. They're consistent in feeling right. Yes, about being right and having the truth on your side.
I've outlaid Benatar's arguments. Nobody has addressed these arguments, or maybe they've made some lame attempts at trying to address these arguments, but they've simply failed, because there is no way to tackle these arguments in a satisfactory way, which would render Benatar's arguments invalid. I'm just going to read a quote from Benatar here. These are 4 asymmetries that stem off from the main asymmetry, that life, being born, can never be better than not existing, but not existing can be better than being born. Okay, asymmetry 1, there is a duty not to bring people into existence who will predictably have terrible lives filled with suffering in what are commonly considered wrongful life cases, but no duty to bring people who are likely to have good, happy lives into existence. Okay. 2, whereas it is strange, if not incoherent, to give as a reason for having a child that the child one has will thereby be benefited, it is not strange to cite a potential child's interest as a basis for avoiding bringing a child into existence. 3. Bringing someone into existence can be regretted for her sake. Not bringing someone into existence cannot be regretted for the possible person's sake. 4. We can be rightly sad about distant people who are known to suffer, but not about possible people who would have been happy had they existed. Now, these arguments are sound, they're solid. Nobody has even been able to bring any kind of question or shadow of doubt onto these premises. No one. And I've been making these videos for over 2 months now, and no one has even, slightly made kind of a little vulnerable area in these asymmetries. And all I get from you is you're lazy, you're stupid, you're a hypocrite, you've got no desire to solve any real problems.
And hence having authority to decide for everybody else whether they should live or die.
No, I've never argued that antinatalists have the authority to dictate to people whether they should have children or not through forceful means. The ones in authority, the ones whose decisions are unquestioned generally in society, are those who decide to have children, and they're the ones that are imposing potential great harm and suffering on future human beings. They're the ones who should be justifying themselves, why it should be okay for them to capriciously bring about a state of affairs where there are more people in here on this planet suffering. But there's not even a hint generally in society that people are thinking about these issues whatsoever. So hopefully my videos are at least readdressing the balance even in a minuscule manner.
It's not as if they would wield that power in that sense. They just wield the relationship of being the right one, the one in authority. And
I grow weary of this video. I mean, this strange kind of character that you're portraying in this video is just difficult to debate with somebody who's adopting this kind of persona. So I'm going to end the video there, ladies.